Have you ever felt that life is like a journey without a map, where you walk forward but never know if you are heading in the right direction? What if I told you that there exists a secret map, not of the world outside, but of the soul itself, an ancient path hidden for centuries that reveals your true purpose? For generations, religions and institutions have spoken of destiny, of salvation, of rules to follow. Yet behind all these voices, there are whispers of another teaching, one that claims your soul carries within it a hidden design, a map that only the brave dare to uncover. Why has this knowledge been forgotten? Who erased it from history? And more importantly, what happens when someone dares to rediscover it? The Gnostics, those seekers of inner knowledge, believe that each person's soul was like a sacred temple holding secret coordinates to their divine origin. But if that is true, why were these teachings silenced? Was it too dangerous to allow people to find their own path instead of obeying the systems of power? These are the questions that open a door not to simple history, but to revelation, a revelation that could change the way you see your own life, your struggles, and your destiny. As we unfold this hidden map step by step, you will begin to notice that nothing in your life is random, and that every experience, even the most painful, has been guiding you toward something greater. But the final answer to how this map works and how it reveals your true purpose will only be unveiled at the end. So stay with me, because the deeper we go, the clearer the light will become. If you want to continue receiving these hidden revelations that the world has tried to erase, subscribe now and join this journey with us. Only together can we bring back the forgotten truths buried in the dust of centuries. From the beginning of recorded history, human beings have asked themselves the same haunting question: why am I here? Religions, philosophies, and empires have tried to provide answers. Yet many of those answers have been shaped by the desire to control, to unify under dogma, or to silence other voices. The Gnostics, however, taught that humanity once possessed a direct awareness of its divine purpose, a hidden memory carried within the soul itself. But when organized religion and political powers rose, this inner knowledge became a threat. If every soul had its own map to follow, who would obey the external rules? If people could find God within themselves, why would they need intermediaries? That is why many Gnostic texts were buried, destroyed, or branded heresy. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, speaks of the kingdom being inside you and all around you, a direct challenge to the idea that salvation is only found through institutions. Imagine what it means if the kingdom is not a distant paradise, but a code already engraved in your being. This was too revolutionary for the rulers of the time. To admit that each person carried a hidden map to their purpose was to admit that no one could truly be enslaved in spirit. The problem, then, is clear. Humanity has been living as if blind, walking without a compass, because the knowledge of this inner map was covered by layers of fear, doctrine, and distraction. We are told what to believe, what to follow, and what to expect after death. But rarely are we invited to look inward and uncover the symbols of our own soul. Have you ever wondered why, even after following all the rules, many still feel empty, lost, or without direction? Could it be because the true guide has always been hidden within, waiting to be rediscovered? When scholars uncovered the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt in 1945, they found scrolls and manuscripts that had been hidden for almost 1,600 years. These texts spoke of something radically different from the religion most people knew. They revealed that the soul itself carried memory of its origin and purpose. In the Gnostic worldview, human beings were not simply born to obey laws and wait for salvation, but to awaken from forgetfulness and remember the divine spark within. This awakening was described as gnosis, direct inner knowledge, not second-hand belief. Among these texts, some writings describe the soul's journey through levels of reality, guarded by archon spiritual rulers that distract and confuse. Only those who carried the passwords, meaning deep understanding of who they truly were, could pass through. This imagery is not just about the afterlife. It is about life here and now. Each obstacle, each suffering, each illusion is like a checkpoint, a place where the soul must choose whether to remain trapped or to continue toward its higher destiny. Doesn't it sound like a hidden map, with trials along the way that guide you closer to your true purpose? Even outside of the Gnostic tradition, traces of this secret cartography appear. In Hermetic teachings, in early Christian mysticism, and even in ancient Egyptian symbolism, there are constant references to the idea that the soul descends, forgets, and must climb back upward. The pyramid itself can be seen as a symbol of this ascent, wide at the base, with distractions and material concerns, narrow at the top where only truth and unity remain. Have you ever felt that your own life reflects this pattern, with endless noise at the bottom, but rare moments of clarity when everything seems to align? Perhaps those moments are glimpses of your soul's hidden map, calling you to remember. If this hidden map of the soul was so central to ancient teachings, why was it erased? The answer lies in the power structures that arose as Christianity became institutionalized. In the early centuries, many different communities followed the teachings of Jesus, and not all of them agreed on what his message truly meant. Some, like the Gnostics, believed he came to remind humanity of its divine origin, to awaken the memory of the spark within. But others, particularly those who sought to build authority and unity, saw this as dangerous. If every person could find God inside themselves, then the power of priests, bishops, and emperors would weaken. So the narrative was shaped. Salvation was declared to exist only through the church, through sacraments, through obedience. The living inner map was replaced with external commands. Slowly, alternative voices were silenced. Councils were held, books were burned, and teachings branded heretical. The result was a narrowing of spirituality into a system that demanded loyalty more than discovery. It wasn't always done with malice. Some leaders truly believed they were protecting truth, but the effect was the same. The soul's hidden map was buried under centuries of doctrine. Even beyond religion, we see the same pattern. Political powers, empires, and later even modern systems have all benefited from people who do not know their true direction. A person who follows their inner map becomes unpredictable, free, and ungovernable. But someone who is told what to think, what to want, and where to go becomes easy to manage. Could this be why, even today, so much energy is spent distracting us with endless entertainment, superficial goals, and fear? If you lose sight of your hidden map, you wander in circles, and others take control of your journey. Have you ever asked yourself if the path you walk daily is truly yours, or if it was drawn for you by someone else's hand? The true shift begins when we realize that the map was never destroyed. It was only hidden within us. The Gnostics described this revelation as remembering who you are before the world told you who to be. They believed every soul carries a seed of divine light, a fragment of the source itself, and this fragment cannot be erased. No matter how much external power tries to bury it, it continues to whisper, waiting for the moment you pause and listen. Have you ever felt a strange pull, a sensation that your life has meaning beyond what others tell you? That is the call of the hidden map. This is the forgotten revelation. The purpose of life is not blind obedience, but awakening. The soul's journey is a gradual unfolding of this inner knowledge. In Gnostic texts, Jesus is often shown not as a distant savior, but as a revealer, someone who gives you keys to unlock the chambers of your own soul. He does not tell you the path step by step. He reminds you that the map already exists within. This idea changes everything. Instead of being lost in fear, you begin to see struggles as signals, obstacles as guides, and moments of clarity as milestones pointing the way. Think of it this way. When you look at your life, every joy and every pain is like a symbol on a secret chart. You may not see the whole picture yet, but when you connect the dots, a pattern emerges. The forgotten revelation is that your soul is not wandering aimlessly. It is navigating a divine design that leads back to the source. That is why the Gnostics insisted on gnosis, not belief in someone else's truth, but the direct experience of your own. It is tempting to think of these teachings as ancient history, locked away in dusty manuscripts. But the truth is, the hidden map of the soul is alive in you right now. Every time you feel lost, restless, or unsatisfied with the life others have designed for you, it is the signal that you are not following your true path. The Gnostics would say that this discomfort is not a curse, but a compass. It points you back toward the places where your soul is calling you. Have you noticed how certain choices drain you, while others give you a mysterious sense of energy and peace? That is the map quietly guiding you, step by step. In our modern world, we are told to measure life by achievements, possessions, or approval. Yet deep down, many still feel a void. This void is not failure. It is a reminder that the soul longs for alignment with its true purpose. When you begin to listen to that inner voice, you realize that even the darkest chapters of your story were part of the journey. The betrayals, the losses, the doubts, they all forced you to search deeper, to question, and to awaken. A map does not promise an easy road, but it guarantees that nothing is wasted. To live without awareness of this inner map is to be like a traveler with no destination, walking in circles, believing that confusion is all there is. But once you rediscover it, even the smallest steps become meaningful. Have you ever had the experience of looking back at your life and realizing that everything, every person, every challenge, every turning point was preparing you for something greater? That realization is the beginning of Gnosis, the recognition that the soul's map has always been unfolding, waiting for you to see. Here lies the moment when everything begins to shift, the discovery that your soul is not an empty vessel waiting to be filled, but a sacred book already written with invisible ink. The hardships you faced were not random punishments, but coded lessons guiding you back to remembrance. The Gnostics believed that when you awaken to this truth, the archons, the rulers of illusion, lose their power. For how can fear control you once you know that every challenge hides a step in your ascent? The invisible map does not show roads on the earth. It shows pathways in consciousness. Think about it. How many times in your life did you believe you were broken, only to realize later that those very wounds became doors to wisdom? What if the map had placed those trials not to destroy you, but to strengthen your ability to see beyond appearances? This is the forbidden secret. You are not wandering aimlessly in a meaningless world. You are navigating a chart that was placed inside you before you even entered this life, and its lines all lead back to your divine origin. Pause for a moment and let this idea sink in. What would change in your life if you began to see every difficulty as part of your sacred itinerary? What fears would lose their grip if you realized they were only markers on the journey? The climax of the hidden revelation is this: the true purpose of your soul is not something you must invent or beg for. It is something you must remember. And once you remember, the illusions that enslaved you collapse like shadows before the light. Now imagine applying this knowledge to your life today. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this moment trying to reveal to me?" That single shift transforms confusion into guidance. The hidden map of the soul does not eliminate pain, but it gives meaning to it. Suddenly, betrayal becomes a lesson in truth, loss becomes an invitation to detach from illusion, and uncertainty becomes the space where new paths open. The Gnostics would say that each event is like a marker on your chart, pointing toward the direction of your awakening. This is why so many people today feel trapped in cycles of repetition. Without the awareness of the inner map, they live only on the surface, repeating patterns without seeing the deeper design. But when you start to decode the signs, dreams that linger, coincidences that feel too precise, inner nudges that keep returning, you realize you are being guided. The soul speaks in symbols, and life responds with mirrors. Have you ever had a moment when everything seemed aligned? When even strangers' words felt like messages meant just for you? That is the map reminding you that you are not lost. By connecting this revelation to your daily existence, the world transforms. What looked like chaos begins to reveal order. What felt like despair begins to glow with hidden meaning. You no longer walk as a victim of fate, but as a traveler who knows the road was written in light long before you could see it. And with that realization, a new question arises. If the soul already holds the map, then what exactly is your role in this grand design? To truly follow the hidden map of the soul is not an easy path. It demands something deeper than belief. It calls for remembrance. The Gnostic scriptures didn't offer formulas for salvation. They offered riddles, metaphors, parables. Why? Because the truth cannot be given from outside. It must be awakened from within. That's why, throughout history, those who remembered even fragments of this sacred map were feared, exiled, or silenced. Because when one person begins to awaken, their light threatens the darkness that keeps others asleep. That's why so many people, even today, feel resistance when they begin to change, when they start asking questions, when they start following that inner pull. The soul's map is a paradox. It is both deeply personal and universally shared. Your path is unique, shaped by your choices, your wounds, your longings, but the journey itself mirrors the ascent described in ancient texts, from forgetfulness to awakening, from illusion to truth, from slavery to spiritual freedom. This is why ancient Gnostic teachings describe the soul moving through veils, breaking through layers of deception, recognizing false voices of authority, and finally coming face to face with the divine, not as a distant king, but as the very light that has always lived inside. This is also where the real power of Gnosis comes in. Gnosis is not just knowledge. It's not about accumulating information. Gnosis is the fire of realization that burns through all falsehood. It's that moment when something clicks deep inside you, and you can no longer return to how you saw the world before. Have you ever experienced that? A shift so strong that everything changes, even if no one else notices, even if the world looks the same, you are no longer the same. That's the moment when the hidden map reveals a new path forward. But here is the final mystery. The map is not static. It evolves as your consciousness grows. The more you awaken, the more paths open. The more you heal, the more symbols appear. You may feel lost, you may doubt, but the map never disappears. It waits, and the moment you begin to trust the signs, not with fear, but with reverence, you become a seeker in the true sense. Not someone who is incomplete, but someone who remembers what the world tried to make them forget. So I ask you now, what patterns in your life have repeated so often that they must be trying to teach you something? What pain has lingered so long that it might be pointing to an unopened door? What light inside you has never fully gone out, no matter how dark the path became? These are not rhetorical questions. They are invitations. Invitations to begin decoding your own soul map, to listen, to notice, to remember. Now that you've walked with me through the forgotten paths of Gnostic wisdom, ancient symbols, and the silenced truths of the soul, you must ask yourself, was this just another idea, or was something inside you stirred? Because if even a part of you whispered, "This feels true," then the map has already begun to reawaken. This isn't just a theory. It's not a fantasy or a myth. It is the secret that countless mystics died to protect, the truth that your soul is not lost, not broken, not empty. It is encoded with meaning, direction, and power. The Gnostics were persecuted because they dared to say that salvation is not granted by an external authority, but through an inner awakening. They taught that Jesus came not to create followers, but to ignite that flame of memory, not to impose belief, but to awaken knowledge. That same flame is inside you. When you stop following paths that others laid down in fear and begin tracing the luminous pattern unfolding inside your own life, you become something rare in this world, a being who remembers. This is why I urge you, from a place of reverence and shared discovery, don't let this revelation fade once the video ends. Keep it alive. Write in the comments what this awakening stirred in you. Say it out loud, if only to yourself. I choose to remember. Because when we speak it, we activate it. When we share it, we protect it. And when we walk it, truly walk it, we join the lineage of seekers who refuse to forget. If this message resonated with your soul, if something deep inside you feels like it's waking up, then subscribe now and become part of this community of remembrance. Each like, each comment, each share isn't just about numbers. It's a signal, a ripple across time that says, the forgotten truth is returning. And you were there when it did. Before we part, I leave you with one final question, not to answer with words, but to carry in your heart. If your soul came into this world carrying a secret, what would happen if you finally decided to remember it? The search doesn't end here. It has only just begun.